Oh, there we go. I did it. Yay. Okay, everyone. We're going to do a thing that we call popcorning, where I'm just going to say another person's name. They can go ahead and introduce themselves, and then they will pick another person to have introduce themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and just popcorn to Kate.
Hey y'all, I'm Kate. I have a kindergartner, Milo, in Stacy's class, and a third grader, Oliver, in Megan/Katie's class. And I will popcorn to Berkeley.
Hello everyone, I'm Berkeley. I'm a third grade teacher at Marcy. I will popcorn to Rosemary.
Hi, I'm Rosemary, and I'm the community ed coordinator at Marcy. And I will popcorn to Susanna.
Hi, I am Susanna, the bilingual program assistant at Marcy, and then I will be helping someone who need interpretation. So I will popcorn to, let me see here, Claret.
Hi all, I'm Claire Trolley. I have a first grader at Marcy in Nicole's class. And I will pass it off to Sonia.
Hi, I'm Sonia. I have a kindergartner in Joy's class, but he's homebound. So if any of you have heard of a robot, Joy's class has a robot who is now attending. And I will, oh, his name is Foxy. Did I say that? I'll pass it to Shukri.
Hi, my name is Shukri. I have a kindergartner at Miss Jenny class. His name is Warsame. And I will popcorn to Donna.
You know, I almost didn't make it. That drive home was a little long and messy, but my name is Donna. I'm the principal at Marcy. I'm looking at my hair in the picture thinking, yeah, it rained on me a little bit or snowed on me when I was at the stop sign, holding the stop sign up today. But welcome everybody. And I came late to the party, so who raise your hand if you haven't been called on yet, and I will call on you. Okay, I'm popcorning to Emmy.
Hi, I'm Emmy. I use she, her pronouns. I have a kindergartner who was just on screen for a bit, Leora, who goes by Lily, and a 3-year-old. I will popcorn to Anissa.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hi, I'm Anissa. I work as one of the educator, bilingual Somali educator here at Mercy Art School, and I enjoy what I do, and I'm happy to be here tonight. Who do I need to call?
If there's anyone that's joining that hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves, Mike, is that you? Okay, you're next.
I think that's me. I'm Mike Hogan. My son Emmett is in 2nd grade in Andrea's class.
And I'm Laura, and my son Leo is in kindergarten in Stacy's class.
Thanks, Laura. And we have somebody new that joined us. You have numbers on your screen, so I can't call you by name, but if you're able to unmute and introduce yourself and your connection to Marcy, like what age your kids are, whatever, that would be excellent.
Hello, my name is Marisol, and I have my little one, Rafaela, in 2nd grade with Mrs. Thompson-Broom.
I think that's everybody that's in the meeting right now. Did anyone not get an opportunity to introduce themselves? Okay, so we're gonna get started with our meeting. I am the host, so I will be sharing a presentation, which means I won't be able to see anybody's faces. So Donna will obviously help with the chat and help make sure as we're going, make sure that folks are able to ask questions. I know myself, I tend to go super fast with presentations and talk quickly. So if you need me to slow down or you need Donna or I to clarify anything, please just unmute and say so, and we'll be happy to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and share.
Yep, and before we even start our presentation, you know, we've always been it's been important to us to be very transparent about how the money situation looks. And I think the last time that we talked, we hadn't even known about our projected numbers, meaning the number of kids we think that are coming to Marcy next year will make a difference on how the budget looks. So we know those things already. And there will be some changes based on that. Okay, Trinity.
That went right into our first slide. So that was perfect. We do have declining enrollment. We are projected to have, I think it's 508 students for next year. And I didn't put our number that we currently have, I think, but I believe it's around 520 approximately.
566 right now.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
So we do have a lot more kids than they think we're going to have next year.
So next year we're going to have 20 classroom teachers, which is unfortunately a reduction of 4 classroom teachers. And the way they have that configured with their projections for us is that we will have 4 kindergarten teachers, 4 first grade teachers, and then 3 teachers for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we will be losing a teacher for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. And anytime we have our numbers and we have to reduce a teacher, that also impacts our specialist. Every classroom teacher provides 0.2 of a specialist position. So we'll have to reduce 0.8 of a specialist position, which is about 4 days a week of a specialist. And then also our non-magnets funding was reduced by 30%. And I put in the presentation what that includes: the residencies, materials, professional development, extended time for staff. So that's our reductions in our current reality right now.
And to further clarify that last point, Trinity put in their non-staff. So the magnet money that, if you were here last year, we talked about feeling like we were rolling in dough because we had so much money that we were buying teachers left and right and trying to figure out the best needs of the kids. The magnet money was what made us sort of rich. They have not, while there's a 30% reduction in some of the stuff, they're letting us keep our people. So the magnet will provide us with 1 teacher that'll add, well, it will be part of our funding. And then also our band teacher is a 0.6, which most schools, it's a 0.5. You guys understand points, don't you? Like, let's picture it's a 2-week work week with 10 days in it. So, you know, when you only work 8/10 and you'd work 4 days a week or some derivative of that. So it's lucky for us that our magnet status, while being reduced by 30%, really does mean just the things we buy. And we bought a lot of things this year. So we feel kind of lucky about that.
Yeah, and just to clarify a little bit further, it's 1 specialist teacher that they provide with magnet funding, and also our magnet TOSA, who coordinates a bajillion things for us.
Trinity and Donna, I wonder if you could talk about whoops, how, when you're thinking about how you're gonna change the 2nd through 5th grade teams and the specialist, how does that process work? Can you kind of explain that to folks?
Yeah, we can. Each group of teachers, each teacher when hired is placed in a particular kind of a job description. And based on all of our elementary teachers, we just finished canvassing today, our elementary teachers, because that's who we have to reduce by 4 spots. So canvassing means that you start with your most senior person and ask them what their intentions are and if they'd like to, if they're planning on moving, or if they're going to bid out of our building and go somewhere else, or if they are going to do, they're wanting to do something different, so that we start at the top and then work our way down. Historically, at most schools, there is nobody who really is dying to leave. So it ends up the least senior people are the ones that often are affected by that kind of a change.
And it works similarly for every group that we have in our school. So our classroom teachers, if we're reducing there, we go by seniority. Same with like our EL teachers or our special ed teachers, or our specialists are a little bit different because each content area, like if you're the visual art teacher, you're kind of a standalone department, so there is no seniority in that situation. It kind of works that way. So if you have 2 specialists that teach music, or if you have 2 that have a similar type of art form, they might be a department and then you would go by seniority. So all of our reductions are done by seniority. And, you know, sometimes we do have people tell us they're moving out of state or they have different plans. So sometimes that does work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Have the educators that are going to need to be reduced from the building already been identified?
Yes.
Okay.
They have been. The budget, Sonia, is they give us 3 weeks to work it out. So this is the second week of it. And with this canvassing thing that honestly Marcy's never had to do before, really, to this extent, it was new to us. So we made sure we knew how to do it the right way. And then it took time, like all day today, we interviewed the 20 people and we asked the same questions of everybody so that it would be exactly fair and make sure everything was on the up and up. And those are just the elementary teachers. But yes, the teachers, we're as transparent with the staff as we are with you. So we talked to the teachers right away when we heard that the numbers were down, the projected numbers, and that this would mean that we would have fewer teachers. And so I'm sure, even though we are treating this very respectfully, I know that teachers, they have access to the staff seniority list as well as us. And so they can all figure out stuff if they try. And so it's been pretty, with Trinity and I talking to people today, they were gracious and understanding and recognized where they were as far as seniority was concerned.
Is Marcy likely going to lose any educators of color?
That's such a good question. Right now, no, but it's a miracle that Trinity and I worked out today to not lose one. But the thing is, our district has talked around this for a long time. The union does, and the district higher ups talk about this as a real thing we need to do to retain staff of color. And I asked the question, I said, okay, so how close, is this going to happen in my lifetime? Is this going to happen this year? This is the year I need it. And they couldn't give me an answer. So then it would have been, we might have lost one, but luckily that person had enough seniority to hang on. But there still is no consideration for that, Sonia, which is, you can tell, a little dramatic point for me.
Can I
Thank
ask you
you.
a quick question?
Yeah.
Going off of that, Are there, do you need to reduce ESPs too, the educational support professionals?
Yep, I've got some numbers and stuff for that later in the presentation. But yes, given that all of our money is reduced, we had
Right.
some conversations around what we can do with what we have left.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we'll move forward to the next slide. There we go. So with our last year's budget, there were some extra things beyond classroom teachers that we were able to provide for this school year. We were able to hire enough AEs that our AEs were covering lunch and recess for the students so that teachers could have an additional 30 minutes a day that they used for planning and collaboration and integration and data analysis, which was really wonderful for them. And we were able to have 2 AEs per grade level. So those AEs really got to know the students really well in the classrooms and outside at recess and during lunch. We were able also at the beginning of the year to have 2 licensed teacher math interventionists and 2 licensed teacher literacy interventionists. Last year we were also able to buy up our band to 0.4 so that we had a full-time band teacher so that we could have 4th grade band. And we were also able to use some of our additional funding to purchase Playworks, which is a recess, it's an organization that provides support at recess. So we had an individual named Coach T who came every Tuesdays that was outside at recess working with the kids on organized games, and he would come and set up times where he would teach the games in the classroom so the teachers would, or the students would know them as they were going outside for recess. So this is what we were able to do with our last year's budget. And I can show you some of the things we're considering for this year. Do I need to go back? No.
No, I think, I don't know, but I was
Okay.
just going to say, Trinity, we also, when we were projected to have 620 some kids, there's something called predictable staffing. And that's something that all schools need to have, a predictable, like a secretary, a principal, an assistant principal if there's a certain number of kids in the building, a social worker. And so our money was a little locked into spending it on those particular things. Well, this year, we don't have as many kids projected, so we can play around a little bit with it, but our school social worker, his position, this year we've had 2 social workers. We had enough to buy 1.3, 3/10 just for special ed. Her name is Shannon. Not that we should really use names because that's always hard, but, and then our regular social worker who's been there all the time. Well, now, this year we're only funded from the district 0.2. So any more of a social worker, we have to take out of our school funds to buy up. So you can be sure that we're not buying 1.3 again, and we don't have that kind of money. The other position that has proved invaluable to us is our school psychologist, which elementary schools don't often have such a involved relationship with a school psychologist. However, Kate has been working as the lead special ed person for several years, and she's gotten so good at it. And it's something that we feel with the number of students who have IEPs in our building, she's a strong advocate and an organizer. So she also, we purchased her up somewhat last year. And we will do that again for both social worker and the psychologist, but we may not be able to fund them full time. So we've had to have hard conversations with a lot of people, but so far they're going okay.
Yeah. I saw that Mike asked in the chat, as far as declining enrollment, where do they think the students are going? We were at a meeting last week, and one of the things that they shared is that there's a certain percentage of students that are open enrolling in other school districts. There's a certain percentage of students that are going to charter schools in whatever area they live in. And then there's a percentage from families that have left Minneapolis and moved out of Minneapolis to the surrounding area. So that's where we've been hearing that students are going instead of attending Minneapolis public schools.
And honestly, as a school that's been highly impacted by the CDD, I noticed that they never brought up the impact of the CDD on enrollment, which for us as a relatively new kind of school where kids come from all over the city, there has been an impact because when the busing wasn't good and parents would have to at the drop of a hat, pick their kids up after school, many families were frustrated because they lived, very far south or very far north, and they'd have to travel all this way. And sometimes they didn't have a ride. And we lost kids because of that. Their parents just couldn't maintain that kind of a commitment if they were working full time. So, but they didn't bring up the CDD. And so, I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Out all the acronyms.
Yes. So AE, that's an associate educator. That's like a staff person that supports in the classroom. IEP is an individualized education plan that is for students that have needs beyond what happens in a general ed classroom that we're able to provide through that process. The CDD is the comprehensive district design. That was a long process that was implemented at the start of the school year that rezoned schools, reduced the number of magnet schools in Minneapolis public schools, and redistributed some of the zoning around schools for attendance purposes. And it's a little more complicated than that, but that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and feel free to read anything about the CDD on the district website. It's quite the long chapter book to read about. But the bottom line is what was explained to us is that part of our district doing this was it was going to be to try to right size or balance equity within our district. And so I don't know. It's interesting. And we don't know as much as we would usually know because we haven't had as many meetings where people can ask questions. Because of COVID, we're on Zoom meetings with our bosses too, but I don't know the real truth about how many, the superintendent told us 2,500 kids left our district this year. That's a lot of kids. But I don't know if it's just the magnets, like, are they having the same kind of problem that I feel like we're having? Or is it the community schools or what, I don't know the impact. So that's an interesting thing that I'm sure we'll find out eventually.
And we do know it's kind of hard right now, I think, to suss out if folks are moving to other areas because of COVID or because of the CDD. I know Minneapolis, we stayed distance learning longer than most of the districts around us, which was challenging for a lot of families as well. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of factors. It's hard to pinpoint just one or two that are the root cause. Okay, so some of the things that we have to consider for the upcoming school year. One of the things Donna and I did was we surveyed our staff to ask them for feedback on what they felt like was the most effective use of the funds of the things that we talked about that we purchased for this year, like AEs and interventionists and playworks and all of those sorts of things. And overwhelmingly, they indicated two things. They indicated that AEs covering lunch and recess, ooh, I see a typo in there. AEs covering lunch and recess so that they could have that extra half an hour of planning time and collaboration time was really essential for students, as well as having licensed interventionists. So that's the feedback that we received from our staff around some options for what we can do with any extra funding we have beyond our predictable staffing.
Trinity, can you explain what an interventionist does?
Yes, absolutely. So we have math interventionists and we have literacy interventionists, and they will provide tier 2 and tier 3 interventions for students that may indicate that they need additional support based on screeners that the teachers provide in the classroom. So they will pull small groups of kids and provide extensive support in that content area in addition to the core instruction that students are receiving. And they do that, a lot of that is pull out in small groups for a set amount of time, and they have very specific interventions that they do with the students based on the student's specific needs. We're finding just from our students this year that what we've noticed is that the pandemic did have an impact on where our students came to us this year. And we have it's interesting, we have a group of kids that are grade level, and we have groups of kids that are below grade level and struggling a bit, and it's a bigger gap than we've seen before, and we don't have a lot of those students that are right smack dab in the middle that could just use that little extra push. So having interventionists and extra planning time really gave teachers opportunities to figure out how to make core instruction accessible to students that maybe not yet able to read at that particular grade level. So it was really helpful in that way for a lot of our kids.
We've had interventionists for a long time. Usually there are people who are associate educators or AEs, classroom support staff, who get trained in certain kinds of programs and work with kids in the hallway or work with kids in the back of the classroom. But this year, because of the amount of money we were able to use, we were able to hire regular old teachers, and it makes a huge difference to have a trained teacher in there who knows what they're doing about reading and math, which I understand why the teachers would be happy about that, because there's such a wide range of ability in each classroom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions about what we have right here? Okay. So what's next for us as far as budget is concerned? So Donna and I are going to be spending our time in the next couple of days completing our canvassing of the other groups of staff that we still need to talk to about any reductions that we may need to do. And that's after we've figured out all of our predictable staffing. And then the plan as of right now is to use the remainder of the budget that needs to be used for personnel to keep as many of our AEs and licensed interventionists as possible. So that's kind of where Donna and I are in the process before we get to the point where we have to finalize our budget.
The thing I like to tell families is that our budget looks like we have a lot of money, but by the time you put in all the necessary people that we're required to have, we don't have a lot of money to play around with. It was just last year. And I'm telling you, we didn't even know what to buy for the art supplies at Marcy School for the Arts. It was amazing. But I think this makes sense to me, that it dipped a little because the district has dipped in numbers and things have to settle down a little bit. And I think next year our school will be stronger than it was even this year, because this year, as I've mentioned before, we had a lot of children join us from situations where they didn't even know they were going to come to our school. They were kind of crabby. And now they're not crabby, they're getting used to Marcy. But at first, some of our Falwell friends, they were like, what the heck am I at this school for? Because for whatever reason, their parents didn't read the letter or get the letter or whatever. It was not a smooth transition, and we weren't able to really welcome them. So this year's been a little bit, I'd say more behavioral, more, the kids haven't, you know, they don't know who we are and they don't really care until they develop a relationship with us. But it's getting better every day. And it worries me a little that our number is so low, because I do not think it'll stay there. I think it'll rise, you know, the 506 kids or whatever, it'll rise. And then there's a time when they could adjust that. But right now, that's the reality of the beast. 3 classrooms and 2 through 5, and then keeping 4 kindergarten rooms and 4 first grade rooms.
That is the end of what we have to present for budget. I'm sure there are questions and other things that we can help clarify so that you understand the process. So if you have questions, please go ahead and unmute and ask what you'd like to know. We're happy to share everything.
Tell us what your kids say about school. You know, that's what I want to know. Do they like recess and lunch? You know, from my perspective, having the same AEs with the kids made a big difference, because the AEs got to know the kids and the kids got to know them, and it's all about relationships. So that's a good thing. But seriously, yeah. Thank you, Kate. Amanda, huh? Yep. It's pretty, the beautiful thing about this year is that we don't have anyone on our staff who isn't giving 110% of their career time to these kids. And so that makes it really hard to have to let any of them go. But, you know, they'll find a job and they can come back if we have an opening and all that jazz. We just have to keep moving forward. But I just wondered what your kids think.
I have a question. You had mentioned that 0.8 specialist is going to go away. Do we know how that's going to be broken down, whether it's going to be like one position or a couple from multiple positions, or, you know, my kiddo has loved having theater and dance and art and all of that. So just wondering.
So the way the math works out with the number of classroom teachers that we have, they provide enough tenths for us to have 4 specialists on the specialist rotation. And then the district with our magnet funding was able to give us that 5th specialist so that we can continue to do the schedule that we're doing now, where our specialist teachers are able to do integration with classroom teachers for that 2-week block of time. The rest of it, we have to look at, you know, where that best fit would be. It's kind of a tricky thing to think about, and it's looking at who is able to be on that rotation that we have, who is able to work with all of the students, and then thinking about, we do have that funding for our band teacher, and making sure that we're having some of those extra things for our magnet programming. So that's kind of the process that we've been going through, trying to figure all of that out.
Yeah, Claire, we're not done with the specialist group yet. That's why we can't really speculate. We're done with about 4 of the different departments. But that's going to be a scheduling thing, because what we found is the teachers have been happy because they get an extra half hour to do this integration stuff, but integration isn't every single day. So they get this extra half an hour, which gives them a little bit of breathing room, which is good. And so they love that part. But we have to make sure that we have enough people to be able to pull it off again. And I like the social emotional part of people actually knowing the kids. I don't like when the AEs are just out there standing there and they don't know them at recess. They don't know their drama or their ins and outs. So hopefully that'll be settled pretty quickly, and we'll move forward from there.
Donna, you were asking about kids' experiences, and I'll just share that whenever I ask Lily how kindergarten was, every single day she says awesome. She's in Leah's class, and I've been really impressed at what Leah and I imagine lots of other teachers have been doing for Black History Month. They've been talking about Black Lives Matter movement, and it's really nice to see such an emphasis on it, not just oh, here's a one-day thing, but really diving deep into it. And
I'll let Leah know. That is cool.
She'll
And
love to hear that.
I told her.
Good. My daughter's name is Leah, and I used to call her Lily all the time. I can't believe you call your daughter Lily.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I do want to give kudos to our SEL and Equity Committee. They are the ones that have organized videos and all different kinds of things for our staff to use as we've come into Black History Month. So that has been really lovely. They've done trivia. They have highlighted Black artists of all different types, and it was a lot of work for them to put this together, and we are super appreciative of that. It has really enriched our month this month, and it's something that I think we're going to be able to continue and expand. And I think we put some of those resources on our website if you haven't seen them. We have a virtual reading room where our teachers, a lot of them read stories written by Black authors or shared books that they love by Black authors, and we were able to link it to the authors reading their stories. So it's like an interactive, click on your grade level, click on the book, and it will take you to somebody reading the story.
Have you guys seen that? Have you all seen it? Where is it, Trinity?
It's just on the webpage, and some of the teachers have shared it in newsletters.
So if you haven't seen it, look on it. It's pretty funny.
It's all about, it's under the little area that says celebrating Black excellence. That was really our highlight and our goal this year, was to celebrate Black excellence.
Yeah, and my avatar has purple hair because in the past I had a little purple flare. Now I have blue, so that's unfortunate, but it's still fun. I think that to your point, Sonia, about teachers of color, we were fortunate enough to hire several teachers of color this year, and it has made a difference even in our conversations, because it's not just a bunch of white people sitting around talking about Black Lives Matter. You know, it's more than that. And so I'm happy to say that we're able to retain our teachers of color this year, but not because there's any kind of rule yet. There should be a rule, because we talk out of our one side of our mouth about how we want diversity within our schools, and then on the other side we don't have any leg to stand on with the union, like just the seniority. You guys can tell us things that aren't going well too. I love that feedback. If there's anything that's, I mean, besides the traffic in the afternoon, and you know, even that, is there anything that's on your mind or your kids' mind or anything like that? How did conferences go? Were you able to attend and talk to somebody?
I signed up for conferences a day or two before, and to meet with the general education kindergarten teacher, who I don't actually talk to that much in terms of how often I talk to Foxy's team, but I clicked on, and in addition to Joy, the IEP case manager was able to attend, and that was so great because we actually did have a couple of items that we could just like touch base on real quick, and I didn't have to make a separate meeting, and I was really impressed that they were able to coordinate that, and super thankful as well, because it took something off my plate that I didn't have to then arrange a meeting to touch base on those things. So
I'm glad, Sonia, because you know, that's another thing. We can do really well some weeks and we can do really stinky some weeks. I mean, we have really great teachers, but the coordination, especially online, is sometimes tricky. And teachers, I mean, parents, we've had 2 teachers this year kind of leave the profession, just like they talk about in the newspaper. You know, that people are saying, forget this, we're going to go and do something else and make more money or whatever, or this isn't my passion or whatever. And that's been really tough. And Sonia, you've had to get a new case manager. And this is the beauty of hiring great people. So we needed a special ed teacher. Well, they're like nowhere to be found, you guys. We need special ed teachers all over our district, but we had a reading interventionist who said, I'll do it till the end of the year, Donna. And she's highly qualified and just great. And so it was like, Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we were able to shift somebody over to fill a need that we needed in our own building, which was really great. We did it for a maternity leave too. We shifted somebody over out of one of those interventionist spots to fill in where we needed it, because there's just a lot. You're welcome. There's just a lot going on with our teachers and our community and the number of people that we have to be able to choose from. So, Kate, I asked my kids what they would change about school just now, and they said more recess time and more time for drawing. Also, Milo wants more tape for doing art projects. This is all
Awesome.
good.
Is
That's
this
fine.
duct tape? Because you can make some really cool art projects with duct tape. I can tell you that.
He said just tape. There's not enough tape. The tape is only at Stacy's desk, and he wants access to it more than that.
That's awesome.
I really enjoy that.
I have a few questions. I'm wondering how, I know families have received information from the district about the impending strike, the possible strike, but I'm wondering if Marcy's going to communicate with families. I imagine that there's some families who pay more attention to school news than the district.
You know, we are really not supposed to even talk about it. We've been directed. Oh, it's okay.
No, I don't mean me. I just mean I didn't realize you weren't supposed to like communicate.
Well,
with
we're not
like,
supposed to really talk about
childcare.
Yeah, not yet, not yet,
Oh.
because there's no definite date and time. And what we've heard from our bosses is that, you know, it's really tricky in some schools. There are people who are contentious with their administrators and feeling feeling at odds, and making sure that they get all their opportunities to do their union stuff, and some principals must not really love that. So we don't really care. They get to wear their blue shirts, right? I'm pointing at you. They wear blue shirts, they wear red shirts, they wear all this stuff, but they also, I think our staff kind of are, they've always been kind of kind to us because we try to be as pro teacher as possible, no matter what. But it's just funny you asked that question, Emmy, because they said, you know, we really shouldn't engage in long conversations about this with teachers until you have all the facts, and we don't have all the facts. So
Emmy, when we do know more details about what it will look like if a strike happens, as far as any information that we have that we can share, we will do that as soon as we can. I know we have a meeting tomorrow to hear some more details about, like, if school is closed, what kinds of options families will have. So we'll be able to share that as soon as we have it. Just, we know families need to prepare, and we also know overwhelmingly how much support there is for our teachers and our ESPs and the staff that we have in our buildings, which is so lovely.
Yeah, I think they just don't want it to turn into something that would be construed as we versus they and all this. I don't know. They just told us not to talk about it too much. So it's
can I piggyback on Emmy's question there? I know that the next Family Connections and Site Council isn't until the 10th of March. And if a impending strike does happen, it's likely to begin before then. I mean, I can disclaimer and say I'm pro teacher, pro union, all of that. But what I'm asking about right now is support for families who are going to have kids who are vulnerable to the potential for school closures or changes, which I don't view at all as in odds with being pro teacher, because I think teachers care about their kids too, right? So we won't have another formal opportunity as parent members to come together likely before. Is there a way that we can create an opportunity to come back together, even if it's some informal parents like Emmy and I and whoever else wants to come, say we're going to Zoom at such and such a time when we have more information, so that we can help to coordinate any sort of support for the families and students who might need it. Am I making sense? Just because we don't have a formal time to do that at this point.
Sarah, what do you think?
Sonia, I'm the one who's in charge of this Zoom link and everything. So we can certainly, I can send an email to all parent reps, and I can also put it on the Facebook page. And then we can we can have something once we know if there is going to be a date, what that date might be.
Yeah.
We can try and get something as quick as possible.
We're happy to advertise that out as well, Claire. Mhm.
And we're not going on strike, so we'll be here.
Right, right.
So
Donna
we
and
can
I will
still
be
hang
at
out.
Donna and I will be at work. We don't get to strike. We're not allowed. So
No.
yeah, it's part of our contract. So
Anything else?
I have other questions, but I don't want to dominate. So if other people
Let me see. Mike, how's Emmett?
He's really good. I was going to ask kind of a random question. Recess came up, and I was going to ask about gym. So they get rotated into like, I don't even know what the right term is. They do gym for a little while. And
Yeah.
then, so why don't they do gym every day? Like a whole year.
So that's part of our specialist team, Mike. So when we're talking about centers and specialists, gym is part of that. So those positions provide the prep time for our classroom teachers while also teaching really valuable content. And because they're on that 10-day rotation, they're part of that same schedule of rotation as all of the other specialist teachers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have gym every day when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just money. It's money too.
I
But
think
it's interesting because the when we were becoming an arts magnet, there was discussion that we shouldn't even have gym. We should just have the dance.
Oh,
And I was like, oh no, 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 no. We need gym for every other human who doesn't want to just do the dance.
when I was
So
a kid, I think the philosophy was you want the students like just on the edge of being exhausted. You don't want them really riled up. Emmett could talk and dance and run around all day long. So you need to like take a little fuel out of the tank.
I will say I was at Field in the early 90s. I'm an MPS alum, and we had gym once a week because we rotated specials. So we had art one day, media one day,
yeah, that's another way to rotate it. Yeah.
There's lots of different iterations for how to do specialist rotations. We just do the 2-week one because it gives us that opportunity to do integration.
And to actually finish a project in anything, like if they have 2 weeks to do it, it's good. If you only see the art teacher once a week, you don't know what happened to your art project that you started last week. So then that's a problem. Anything else?
I have a question. I saw that Sydney wrote a blurb in the Parents Press about the art adventure program. And I'm just wondering, I'm sure that in itself is an amazing program, but if it sounds like then parents or family members are going to be welcome to volunteer. And if so, like, are there other supports that would be helpful for families to volunteer besides that?
So Sydney is the best connection for any volunteer needs. The way that it works is there's paperwork on the district website that people have to fill out to come and volunteer at the school and work with students. And there are vaccination requirements and background check and all of those sorts of things. But once those things are completed, Sydney is the person to connect with about different volunteer opportunities or your child's classroom teacher.
So has the policy changed that, because it was before it was adults weren't allowed in the bill, other adults, right?
Right. So it is a little bit more flexible right now, which is why we have it all going through Sydney to coordinate so that we can keep track of who's in the building and making sure that it stays at a certain number.
Because I was just thinking if I imagine all teachers could think of something that a volunteer could do. So if that's acceptable now, I feel like that would be good for Sydney to broadcast. I mean, obviously you don't, probably want droves of people in the building, but I'm sure there'd be people that would be eager to help out.
Mm-hmm.
I will connect with her.
Thanks. The wait time. I hate wait time on a
I
Zoom
know.
call. It's so creepy.
You hate wait time for any reason, Donna.
I do hate wait time.
You do.
Wait time is hard for me.
Well, we have about 7 minutes left of our meeting. I hope that we were able to go over the budget in a manner that felt really thorough and we were able to answer everybody's questions. As you guys know, we're always available to answer questions via email or phone calls or whatever the case may be. So are there any other last minute questions before we end for the evening? Or comments or contributions?
Thanks for facilitating the meeting, you and Dana.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here.
Okay, well, have a nice evening, and let's just all keep thinking how many more weeks till spring, please, because this cold weather is getting very old, very old. And the poor kids, it was -3 wind chill, and they couldn't go out then. It was like, oh, come on, but no. So hopefully tomorrow they'll get to go outside.
Fingers crossed.
And burn that energy off.
That's right.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.